Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And Raw tonight, of course, was from the Performance Center in Orlando. And from what I heard, WWE is going back to doing their live, their shows live. I heard they are starting with Monday Night Raw tonight. For it going back live. So it's pretty cool. But overall, Monday Night Raw tonight, though it was a shitty show, it was an awful show tonight. I mean, we got 3 Money in the Bank qualifying matches for the women. So already, WWE is building to Money in the Bank. So we had qualifying matches for the women tonight. Next week on Raw, we are getting 3 more qualifying matches, but only for the men. But we got that tonight. Let's jump in to the Monday Night Raw review. So, Monday Night Raw tonight opened up with Drew McIntyre coming out. So, Drew McIntyre made his way out. He got in the ring. And he got on the mic. He ended up calling the cameraman into the ring. And McIntyre ended up thanking the fans, and he says, on behalf of the other superstars, of the privilege of allowing the superstars into, living rooms. So he thanks them all. So McIntyre mentioned, the positive internet feedback. He ended up saying that it's all surreal, and that it's his lifelong dream. He says it's surreal that he beat Brock Lesnar in under 5 minutes. And he says that it's surreal that this happened 20 minutes later. And he ended up showing us, how he defeated the Big Show. And that ended up airing, last week during the main event of Monday Night Raw last week. So McIntyre ended up saying this is his first time watching the match back. So he ended up going on about how he beat the Big Show with the Claymore kick. So McIntyre ended up saying that he beat Brock Lesnar, and then he beat the Big Show back to back. Setting the time for how he will be going forward. So McIntyre ended up saying that he will be a different kind of champion. He says this is his mission statement. As champion, if you're other superstars, that deserve a shot at the title, you will get one. As what McIntyre ended up saying. He ended up saying that he can't quite articulate how much the title means to him. And so then he got interrupted by Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega. And Andrade ended up returning tonight because he was out with an injury. He was out with a rib injury. So Zelina Vega was on the mic, and she ended up introducing Andrade as the real champion of Monday Night Raw. So Zelina Vega and McIntyre were exchanging some words back to back. Vega ended up saying that they just wanted to come out and congratulate McIntyre. And she ended up saying that while McIntyre was having his moments, her associate Andrade, of course, suffered a injury that robbed him of his. So Zelina Vega ended up saying that it would be a shame if someone injured McIntyre and took the title coming off his big night. So McIntyre ended up recalling the last time that him and Andrade faced. And the last time that him and Andrade faced, Andrade ended up putting McIntyre out for 6 months, and that it cost him 6 months of his career. And McIntyre ended up saying that if Andrade wants this match, he's got it. So Andrade ended up speaking. He ended up saying that last time he took McIntyre's title, he took McIntyre out of action. And he ended up saying that tonight there will be no more Cien nice guy. So McIntyre was shown taking off his coat. He was ready to have his fight with Andrade, and Andrade ended up shaking his head no. And that was pretty much basically the segment. But it was a decent segment to Monday Night Raw, to open the show with McIntyre coming out. And then we went to the first match of the night, which was the first of the 3 Money in the Bank qualifying matches. So we had Asuka versus Ruby Riott, Money in the Bank qualifying match, and the match itself was pretty meh, in my opinion. So the match started. We saw Ruby Riott. She ended up offering a handshake to Asuka, but Asuka ended up taking control of the match, and Ruby Riott ended up delivering a shoulder block to Asuka. Asuka ended up striking Riott, unloading on her, and then towards the end of the match, you had Asuka went for the Asuka lock. Ruby Riott ended up tapping. So there you go. Asuka ended up winning the match. She advances into the women's Money in the Bank. And then post-match, Charlie Caruso ended up interviewing Asuka, and she ended up asking if we're getting a more aggressive side of her as of late. Asuka ended up ranting, with the whole, I got this thing, with her talking, Japanese and gibberish. And what was funny was when Ruby Riott came out, Asuka was doing, she was like dancing, which was hilarious. So then we had, like I said, Asuka when Charlie Caruso ended up asking if, we're seeing a more aggressive side of her. She was ranting, Asuka was ranting, and she ends up saying about how at Money in the Bank, Money in the Bank isn't ready for her. So, but that was basically that. But overall, the match itself was very meh, in my opinion. So then, when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had MVP backstage. I'm like, why is MVP still on TV? And he had an edition of the VIP lounge. And this was when he announced 3 Money in the Bank qualifying matches for the men that are going to take place next Monday on Monday Night Raw. So the 3 matches that we'll be seeing next week are Rey Mysterio versus Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black versus Austin Theory, which that's going to be a really entertaining match to check out. That's going to be a really decent match between Black and Theory next week. And then the final match, which you all, after I announced this, I'm like, you all could get your pillows and you could do whatever you want. Go take your bathroom break or anything. But the last match for the Money in the Bank qualifying match for next week is going to be Apollo Crews versus MVP. So there you go. There goes your bathroom break, your sleeping break. You can get your pillow, sleep, do whatever you want to, during this match for next week. I mean, why is MVP included in a Money in the Bank qualifying match? Great. So we get to check out a slow MVP in a match next week against Apollo Crews. I know a lot of you are looking forward to that, right? Right? Give me a break. What? Didn't MVP say, that when he was last in the ring that, that he was going to, that was his last, in ring match that we're going to see? Obviously, he forgot. Obviously, that Claymore kick that Drew McIntyre delivered to him during that VIP lounge caused MVP to forget that he even said that. Unbelievable. We gotta watch next week a slow MVP in the ring once again against Apollo Crews. Unbelievable. Can you imagine seeing MVP if he wins next week? Can you imagine seeing him in the Money in the Bank match? Jeez, I don't even want to picture it. So we're getting those 3 matches next week. Rey Mysterio versus Buddy Murphy. That could be a decent match. Aleister Black and Austin Theory. That's going to be a really good match to check out for next week. I think that might be entertaining. That might be the first of the 3 entertaining matches for next week in the Money in the Bank for the Money in the Bank qualifying match. So yeah, Rey Mysterio versus Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black versus Austin Theory, and Apollo Crews versus MVP, which that will all be your bathroom break for next week. So then we had Oney Lorcan versus Aleister Black, which the match itself, it was decent. I thought it was a enjoyable match. Oney Lorcan really is good in the ring. So the bell rang. Both of them go at it. Lorcan ends up taking down Aleister Black. Lorcan ends up getting in more offense on Aleister Black. Black ends up delivering some more strikes to Oney Lorcan. Black ends up kicking Lorcan out of the ring. And Aleister Black ends up fighting off a half and half suplex from Oney Lorcan, but Lorcan ended up coming right back, dropped Aleister Black. Oney Lorcan went for the pin, and Alistair ended up kicking out, and he ended up fighting off Oney Lorcan, which he locked in, full Nelson onto Aleister Black, but Alistair ended up bringing Oney Lorcan to his knees. And in the end, Aleister Black won the match, and he ended up nailing a black mass to Oney Lorcan, score the win. So Aleister Black ended up winning the match. But post-match, Sarah Schreiber, she was interviewing Aleister Black. She ended up asking about next week's Money in the Bank qualifier, Austin Theory. Of him fighting off Austin Theory next week. And, what is Alistair's game plan? Aleister Black ended up saying that his game plan is to win. So that was basically what Black had to say. But like I said, really interesting. Looking forward to his match next week against Austin Theory. It's going to be a interesting match to check out. Only one of those guys is going to qualify for Money in the Bank. So it's going to be interesting. Well, in all, Aleister Black versus Oney Lorcan was a decent match. It was enjoyable. So then we had Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch came out. She made her way down to the ring. She ended up getting on the mic, and she talks about retaining the title over Shayna at WrestleMania. Becky ended up telling Shayna that this was a battle of the mind, not heart versus skill, like she had said before the match. And Becky went on about, possibly playing mind games with Shayna going into that match. And Becky ended up saying that someone who was born to bully everyone will never beat someone who was born to survive everything. She says that brings her to the Money in the Bank ladder match. So Becky ended up saying that she's here to challenge whoever wins that contract. She says she always has a plan, but she promises whoever wins Money in the Bank and thinks they can beat her, she will shock the world one more time. So that's what Becky had to say. So Becky is looking forward to challenging anyone the woman who wins the women's Money in the Bank match. Overall, it was an okay promo from Becky. And then, after Becky's promo, Charlie Caruso was shown backstage. She was interviewing Zelina Vega and Andrade and Almas. Charlie Caruso ended up asking them about tonight's champion versus champion main event, him versus McIntyre. So Zelina Vega ended up interrupting. She ends up downplaying Drew McIntyre's success being a cause for concern for Andrade. Zelina ends up saying that McIntyre had one great night at WrestleMania, but Andrade has been defending his United States Championship month after month after month. She ended up saying that the last time McIntyre was champion, he was dethroned by Andrade. So Andrade was then saying a few words to taunt McIntyre, and then the both of them end up walking off, and that was basically that. That was what we got. So then we had Money in the Bank qualifying match, the second one of the night. Sarah Logan versus Shayna Baszler. And this match was short. And the match ended up starting. Both Sarah Logan and Shayna Baszler end up locking up. Logan ended up striking at Shayna first. Shayna ended up striking back with a forearm shot to Sarah Logan's face. Ended up dropping her. And Shayna was just taking control of the match, pounding on Sarah Logan. And Shayna was pounding on Sarah Logan so much that the referee had to pull her off Sarah Logan. So Shayna ended up going back over to Sarah Logan. And Shayna then stomped on Sarah Logan's arm, which looked brutal. And Sarah Logan was selling the injury. You know, it looked like she was in pain badly. So the referee ended up checking on Sarah Logan. Shayna Baszler was watching from the corner. Referee called for the match. So then the winner was Sarah Logan by disqualification. So Sarah Logan ends up selling the injury, and Tom Phillips on commentary was wondering if Mike Rome got the winner wrong, got the winner announcement wrong. You know, because it was supposed to be Shayna as the winner. So, but we had they were showing replays of that shot from Shayna to Sarah Logan, where Shayna ended up stomping on Sarah Logan's arm. So pretty much, that was that. It was quick. And then we saw Seth Rollins was backstage. Seth Rollins was saying that he lost to Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. And once again, his career has been crucified. And Seth Rollins wasn't shown looking at the camera. He was shown looking to the side like this. And he was kind of acting like he was a robot, like looking straight that way and not at the camera. He was just like, I lost to Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. And my career has been crucified. That was how Seth Rollins ended up looking. He didn't even look straight into the camera. And that's all that he had to say. I mean, there was more that Seth Rollins ended up saying tonight from backstage. So I'll get to that. And then it was announced from the announcers that Shayna Baszler won the Money in the Bank qualifying match. So Shayna advances to the women's Money in the Bank match. They end up saying, of course, that WWE.com will have an update on Sarah Logan's condition later on, which by the time I'm doing this video, it's 1:16 in the morning. It's Tuesday morning now, so the update is possibly on WWE.com as of now, as I'm doing this video. And then we had Akira Tozawa versus Austin Theory, which the match was okay. Didn't love it, but the match started. Zelina Vega was on commentary for this match. So the bell rang. Austin Theory ended up putting Akira Tozawa down. Tozawa was fighting back, but Austin Theory ended up taking control of the match for a little bit. Tozawa ended up coming back with some kicks that he was delivering to Austin Theory. He sent Theory into the corner, and Theory ended up keeping Tozawa, grounded with a chin lock in the middle of the ring. Tozawa ended up getting a foot on the bottom rope to break up the chin lock. So Theory kept control, ended up rocking Tozawa back into the corner. And at the end of the match, Theory ended up lifting Akira Tozawa and delivered the ATL for the win. So Austin Theory ended up winning the match, defeating Akira Tozawa. Post-match, you had Andrade and Garza, Angel Garza. They ended up coming down to the ring. They joined Austin Theory, and they triple teamed on Akira Tozawa. Vega was applauding, and she was standing on top of the announce table. So we had Theory, Vega, and Andrade end up raising their fists together. And Andrade, before all that, Andrade ended up delivering the Hammerlock DDT to Austin Theory. To Akira Tozawa. Andrade ended up delivering the Hammerlock DDT to Akira Tozawa. So that was when Austin Theory, Zelina Vega, and Andrade, they ended up raising their fists together. And they were laughing down at Akira Tozawa. So that was basically that. But I'm liking this this team with Zelina Vega, with Austin Theory, Garza, and Andrade. I'm liking where this is headed with this team. I mean, they look all three of them. They look good together. Theory, Garza, and Andrade. And then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Rey Mysterio. And Caruso ended up asking Mysterio about his legendary career and his Money in the Bank match with Buddy Murphy, which is going to be next week. So Mysterio ended up telling Caruso about how important his 2010 was, and how Kane ended up cashing in the briefcase to end his title reign, which, that happened. He was reflecting on that memory. So Rey ended up saying the point is, no one knows how dangerous Money in the Bank is like. He does. He said he respects Buddy Murphy, but says Murphy doesn't want it as bad as he does. So Mysterio says he will put it all on the line next week. And for the first time, he will be Mr. Money in the Bank. And he will be the one to cash in the briefcase this year. So that was what Rey Mysterio had to say. I like how that he was reflecting, how important, that year was to him, that 2010 year, 10 years ago. And then we saw Seth Rollins backstage again, staring straight ahead like this. And he ended up saying, just like this, everyone needs something to have faith in. And he ended up saying that he wants us to know he is still here for you. Your Messiah has truly risen. So that's what Seth Rollins had to say as he was staring like this, not at the camera. So then we saw Angel Garza versus Tehuti Myles. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but Tehuti Myles is from NXT. So Bell ended up ringing. Garza ends up drop kicking Tehuti Myles in midair, which looked really cool. Garza came in with a chop to Tehuti's chest, and they were trash talking. And Garza ended up winning the match. He delivered the wing clipper to Tehuti Myles for the pin. So there you go. Angel Garza ended up winning the match. Post-match, Garza and Andrade and Austin Theory came down. Theory and Andrade came to the ring. Zelina Vega was watching from the ramp. And once again, like Kelly did to Akira Tozawa, they ended up triple teaming on Tehuti Myles into the corner. And Andrade, just like he did with Tozawa, ended up dropping Myles with the Hammerlock DDT from the top rope. So Theory, Garza, and Andrade were all taunting Myles. Zelina Vega was shown applauding from the ramp. And the trio ended up putting their fists together. And they ended up standing over Tehuti Myles. So that was that. But like I said, I'm liking this team of Theory, Garza, and Andrade. So then after that, we saw Sara Schreiber. She was backstage with the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane. Schreiber ended up congratulating Asuka on qualifying for the Women's Money in the Bank. Asuka was laughing. She ended up saying Ruby Riott was not ready for her. And Schreiber ended up asking Kairi Sane about her confidence level in her qualifying match with Nia Jax, which is going to be coming up. And so that was basically that. So then, when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Drew McIntyre was shown pacing around backstage. Charlie Caruso ended up approaching McIntyre, and she ended up asking if he has any comments on what Zelina Vega said. So McIntyre ended up pointing out to a scar on his arm. And he says that he looks at that scar at least a few times a week. He said that scar reminds him how Andrade almost took everything from him when he previously put him on the shelf. So McIntyre ended up saying that he doesn't forgive and forget. He wanted to say that he promises to hurt Andrade, and he promises to claymore him. He says that if Andrade has to take 6 months off because of him, then so be it. And so that was basically what McIntyre had to say. So that was the main event for the night. It was Drew McIntyre versus Andrade. And then we had the last qualifying match, for the Money in the Bank for the women's. It was Kairi Sane versus Nia Jax. This match was terrible. We all know the outcome of the match. We all knew that Nia Jax was going to win it right from there. So the bell rang. Nia Jax ended up launching Kairi Sane into the corner. Kairi Sane ended up grabbing Nia, but Nia ended up overpowering on Kairi Sane. And Kairi Sane ended up trying to get some offense on Nia Jax. Kairi Sane went to the top, and she ended up rolling through on Nia Jax. And Kairi Sane was getting offense on Nia Jax, but she was barely hurting Nia Jax. So Nia ended up tossing her to the floor, ended up tossing Kairi Sane to the floor with one arm. And Asuka was shown backstage. She was cheering on Kairi. Kairi Sane ends up coming back in. Jax ends up slamming Kairi in the middle of the ring. And at the end of the match, Nia Jax ended up scooping Kairi Sane above her head. And she ended up dropping Kairi Sane into a Samoan drop, which now that Samoan drop is being called the Annihilator. So that's Nia Jax's finishing move. The Samoan drop is now called the Annihilator to Nia Jax. So Nia went for the pin. There you go. Nia Jax is qualified now for the women's Money in the Bank. There you go. But overall, match was fucking terrible. We all knew that Nia Jax was going to win the match and advance to the women's Money in the Bank. And then we get to see Charlotte. I'm like, we gotta see Charlotte on Monday Night Raw, and then we gotta see her again on NXT. Do we all deserve this? We all don't deserve to see Charlotte shoved down our throats. We gotta see her tonight, and we gotta see her on Wednesday. Unbelievable. So Charlotte ends up getting on the mic. She ends up saying, tonight, it's history lessons with her. She ended up talking about winning the Women's Royal Rumble match, getting to pick her WrestleMania opponent. She says she had already done that with Becky Lynch. She already did that with Bayley. She said the next biggest and best thing, of course, was Rhea Ripley. So Charlotte ended up saying that was ballsy and kind of reminded her of someone she knows well. She says, but that was then, and this is now. She says she stands here as the new NXT Women's Champion, a two-time NXT Women's Champion. And she says she beat the next big thing, making her the biggest thing. She ended up saying Vince knew she was the biggest thing last year. So she said this year, Rhea picked her because Rhea wants to be the queen. So Charlotte went on bragging about her win over Rhea and how good she is. Yeah, I mean, Charlotte is good, but she's not a draw. Charlotte is not a draw. So she ended up saying that she's going to remind NXT of humility. She says the next in line is Io Shirai, which Io Shirai won the ladder match this past week on NXT. So Charlotte ends up saying that Io Shirai had a great victory, but she's here to teach lessons, not worry about victories. And she ends up saying that the number one lesson is everyone bows down to the queen. She delivers a woo, and that was basically that. But Charlotte, every time she's on TV, we're like, oh, get off. And if there was a crowd, without a doubt, she would get go away heat from the crowd. But I don't know why. We gotta see Charlotte tonight, and then we gotta see her on Wednesday night. So it's WWE shoving Charlotte down our throats. It says she is the female Roman Reigns of the women's division. Terrible. Absolutely fucking terrible. So then we had Bobby Lashley versus No Way Jose. Do I even have to go over this match? You all said Bobby Lashley won. You were right. And Lana was out there. She ended up cheering on Bobby Lashley. We heard Lana screaming at Bobby Lashley, which was fucking annoying. So Bobby Lashley won the match, delivered a spear to No Way Jose. That was it. Moving on. Seth Rollins was backstage, of course, again. Seth Rollins ended up having a message to all the non-believers. And he ends up looking at the camera here. And he ends up saying, "You have left me no alternative." He ends up saying that tonight he stomps out all the doubt. And so that was what Seth Rollins had to say. And then you had the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders end up returning tonight on Monday Night Raw. They end up taking on Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. This was a really good match between these teams. I like this pairing of Cedric and Ricochet. So the match started. Eric and Ricochet end up starting off the match. Eric got some offense and dropped Ricochet. Cedric Alexander got dropped off of the ring apron. Ivar came in and they were trying to do a double team. Ricochet ended up rocking Ivar with a kick. And Cedric Alexander ended up coming in, took out Eric. And Cedric Alexander ended up taking down Eric on the floor. Ricochet delivered moonsault on Ivar, which that moonsault from Ricochet looked awesome. So Ricochet ended up beating Ivar into the corner. Cedric came in for the double team, but Ivar, ended up taking him out. And in the end, the Viking Raiders end up winning the match. They end up botching. Yes, they botched their own finishing move, the Viking Experience. So they botched their finisher on Cedric Alexander. Eric went for the cover. There you go. The Viking Raiders ended up winning the match. But overall, very good match between these teams. But that botch in the end, it was terrible. That Viking Experience botch on Cedric from the Viking Raiders was terrible. But still, it was a good match. And then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing the Street Profits. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins came. Montez Ford ended up saying that they didn't come along. He says he asks for help in welcoming the newest superstar to Monday Night Raw. Of course, that is his wife, Bianca Belair. So Charlie Caruso ends up congratulating Bianca Belair, welcomes her to Monday Night Raw. Charlie Caruso ends up saying that the Viking Raiders just sent a clear message that they want to take the titles, the Raw Tag Team titles, from the Street Profits. Both Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins say that they have a lot of respect for the Viking Raiders. He says not just Eric and Ivar, but all Vikings. So Bianca ends up asking, why? And says no. She says, why they're doing all this? When's the last time, why are they doing all this? She ends up saying Eric and Ivar might be cosplaying, but the Street Profits get whooped every time they're in the ring with them. She ends up telling them to stop with the games and get that smoke. And pretty much that was basically that. But, really happy to see Bianca Belair on Monday Night Raw. So she has, she's talented. She had great matches in NXT. She's awesome in the ring. And then we had the main event. Drew McIntyre versus Andrade. And this was a good main event between the both of them. So we had Austin Theory and Angel Garza. They ended up coming out along with Andrade and Zelina Vega. So the match started with McIntyre and Andrade staring each other down. McIntyre ended up posing in the corner. Andrade raised the United States Championship in the air. Zelina Vega ended up getting in McIntyre's face, ends up talking trash to him. McIntyre ended up asking Andrade if he's going to control her. Andrade ended up taunting McIntyre, and McIntyre ended up saying that Andrade is his now. So the referee was restoring order, ended up calling for the bell. Andrade ended up striking first at McIntyre, but did nothing to McIntyre. McIntyre ended up dropping Andrade with a headbutt. McIntyre ended up taking Andrade to the corner, delivers a big chop to Andrade. And McIntyre was just delivering more strikes in the corner to Andrade. And McIntyre ended up catching Andrade with a kick in the corner. And Andrade went to the floor to regroup with his guys. And McIntyre ended up dropping Andrade, rib first over the barricade. And McIntyre was just chopping Andrade around that ringside. And Austin Theory and Angel Garza were distracting McIntyre. They were talking trash to him. And then at the end of the match, McIntyre ended up waiting for Andrade to get up. And Andrade got up. McIntyre ended up delivering the Claymore kick to Andrade. So McIntyre went for the cover. There you go. Drew McIntyre ended up winning the match. Post-match, Seth Rollins music ended up hitting. And Andrade ended up taking McIntyre down with a chop block. Rollins ended up coming to the ring. Ended up dropping McIntyre in the middle of the ring. Rollins then delivered a stomp to McIntyre. And Rollins was looking at the camera. And we see the title, WWE Championship, laying on the mat, on the canvas. McIntyre was slowly getting back up to his feet. But Rollins ended up putting him right back down. Rollins ended up delivering another stomp to McIntyre. So Monday Night Raw went off the air. We're shown with Seth Rollins standing tall over McIntyre. So it looks like Seth Rollins is going to be McIntyre's opponent for the title. So that was basically that. But good main event from McIntyre and Andrade. Anyways, that was Monday Night Raw tonight. Anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, which will be the Dynamite review, the AEW Dynamite review. So until then, I will see you all with the AEW Dynamite review on Wednesday.